My name is Porter Stowell. I am from the Filecoin Foundation. This is my first time in UAE in Dubai. This is my first time giving a presentation in this country, and I couldn't be more excited. So there's a lot I want to talk about today, a lot I want to educate you on, hopefully. But first I want to start you off with a couple premises to anchor your mindset as we go on this journey together. First and foremost is that I believe that any digital asset of value will inevitably live on-chain. The key word here is inevitably. You see that from real-world assets, you see that to NFTs, and I'm here to tell you that your data is going to be one of the most predominant digital assets in your life. It is already, so maybe you're not aware of that state, but over the next 5, 10, 20 years, you'll become intimately aware that data is your most valuable digital asset, and it will inevitably live on-chain. The other premise I want to start you off with as we go on this journey is the notion of trust, don't trust, verify. Don't trust, verify. And what that means is you shouldn't rely on a third party or someone else to tell you what to believe. You should be able to go on-chain and verify things for yourself. This January I had a chance to go to the World Economic Forum in Davos, and everywhere I went, companies were talking about trust, 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 trust. And it just felt so disingenuous to me when I hear a bank saying, trust us. We're a bank, you can trust us. And I'm like, don't trust, verify. So just keep those in the back of your mind as we go through this presentation. So what I'm talking to you about today is why AI needs decentralized storage. So again, if you don't know Filecoin, I'll go into Filecoin in a little bit, but Filecoin is the largest decentralized storage network on the planet. We have over 5 exabytes of capacity, over 2 exabytes of data on the network already, and we're growing exponentially every day with more data coming on the network globally. And again, it gets to that concept of don't trust, verify. And it's specifically around your data. So let's go. Did you know that this year alone, 5% of all data and 25% of high quality data has been retracted from the internet? Like, that is 25% of high quality data being removed from the internet. That is a massive, massive number in a short amount of time. So what's going on? What's the story here? And it's the recent actions by AI that is causing the market to react. So we're seeing multiple examples of people saying, no, I'm taking this data back. So we have paywalls or changed terms of services for prevent AI data use. We have blocked automated web crawlers from companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google who are out there web crawling the internet for this data to train their AI models. People have begun charging for data access. You've seen this across Reddit and Stack Overflow. You've even seen things like the New York Times take legal action against OpenAI saying, you've inappropriately used my intellectual property to train your AI models, and that just doesn't feel right. So there's lawsuits out there as well. It doesn't matter what you believe is right or wrong, or what the future, like what your stance on this philosophy is on data on the internet. The point is the market is reacting swiftly in a short amount of time, like with that 25% reduction number. So what's really happening, in my opinion, is people are beginning to understand the value of data. So far, since the inception of public cloud 15 years ago, storage became so cheap and so readily available that everyone could throw their data into a public cloud provider, store their data, and it really wasn't that expensive. And that data is mounting up, and now those bills are getting higher. And now everyone has to go back and assess what is valuable. Am I just keeping this for the sake of keeping it, or is this really something that's useful to my business? Is it useful to me as an individual? This is all a value conversation. And what you're going to see over the next 2 to 5 years specifically is organizations and individuals having conversations about what is the value of my data, what do I get utility, or benefit from in terms of my data. So now let's dig in with some of the problems of centralization. I'm gonna attack some public cloud providers and some hyperscalers. It's okay, I used to work for one, 3-letter acronym, kind of all over the world. And I got the first-hand look inside and behind the curtain of what it was like to work for a public cloud provider. And there's some specific problems and challenges that I'm sure some of you will relate to. First and foremost, public cloud providers are a walled garden. They make it very easy to come in. It's very nice inside. Don't get me wrong, it's very nice inside. They do a great job. But when you want to get around, when you want to move outside the walls, they make it extremely difficult. Picking on AWS as an example, if you want to move your data out, again, they see this in your storage prices, like Glacier storage pricing for S3, archival storage, extremely cheap, and it works well. But where they get you is when you want to move that data or use the compute to do AI, that's where the expenses really start to mount up. So we have a cost problem with centralization that a lot of users aren't really aware of, and they feel trapped by that cost conversation because they've entered into this siloed ecosystem known as a public cloud provider. Customized LLMs will need verifiable data. So LLMs are becoming more use case specific. And what that means is not everything is going to be an open AI. Let's say you want to do a climate change data set or AI agent, where you want to consume all the climate data. And this actually exists. It's called Climate AI. It was done by Equity Labs using all the open source climate data, where you can have a natural language conversation with a data set on climate data. And every time you ask the AI a question, it will generate a response and show you the source files for where that data was pulled. Again, you don't want climate data from Charlie down the street. You want climate data from NASA. You want climate data from MIT, Harvard, reputable sources. So you need to be able to authenticate and attribute that data is coming from a location that's trusted. Not to mention, you're going to need to know that data hasn't been tampered with. Put a pin in that, we'll come back to that in a second. But you're seeing more and more customized LLMs are looking for high quality data to train their models on. So why decentralized storage? Is you need continuous proofs to tell the data provider and the data user that the data hasn't changed. We call this like the replication crisis, especially when you're doing scientific research. I need to know that if I'm going to try to recreate the study and the results of your scientific study, I'm using the exact same data set and it's in the exact same state that you did your initial research on. So this is why decentralized storage solutions play a huge role, because there's no centralized authority and you have the continuous proofs to give you that level of confidence and trust on chain that this is occurring and that you're going to get the same data with it. Same data, same results. Every centralized AI platform will eventually fall victim to censorship. I'm a big fan of Eric Voorhees. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the godfathers of decentralization, huge Bitcoin influencer back in the day. And his quote really makes me think. So censorship is something that we see on social media. It's been a common discussion in social media worlds, but it's also translating into AI. So, can you censor AI? How does the inputs and the outputs get altered, stored, or accessed by federal agencies? Can they discriminate? Can they delete data? Can they really tailor the models to fit a certain narrative? That's all a version of censorship. And this is one of the risks you have when operating in a centralized ecosystem. No one wants censorship on their AI models. They want free, unbiased, quality data so they can get the results they need. Censorship shouldn't enter the equation. So why decentralized storage? You have privacy and control over your data within an AI environment. It's the control piece that's really essential here. So control means that there's no third-party intermediary that gets to determine the fate of your data. One of the lines in Bitcoin that I really love is Bitcoiners will tell you that when you give your money to a bank, it is no longer your money, the bank gives you an IOU. I kind of feel the same way about data. When you give your data to a public cloud provider or a hyperscaler, it's no longer your data, it's their data, they're giving you an IOU. And there's a reason why like self-custody and control has become such a big thing in the Bitcoin world, just as I think it's going to become in the data world. So how do you take control over your data so you have the autonomy and authority to dictate how your data is used and who it's being used by? Decentralized storage can help address that issue for you. Did you know that federal law enforcement agencies, this is in the US, secretly seek the data of Microsoft customers thousands of times per year? So this is getting back to that censorship, surveillance economy that already exists today, whether it's the application on your phone or even one of the large public hyperscalers. It just doesn't feel right that there's a surveillance state out there on what you're trying to do. And do you really want surveillance on your AI activities, specifically ones that are tied to your identity? For example, X, if you use the Grok, it's like not only is Twitter saving all your outputs, they're attaching all your AI outputs through Grok to your identity in perpetuity. That's a really scary concept. If Twitter was ever audited or surveillance, like these outcomes, these queries are going to be tied to your identity for the entire duration of your life. That's not really what the intent of OpenAI is all about, or responsible AI. So again, when you think about where this data is stored, who has custody over the data, these are the conversations that are happening more and more every day across multiple tech platforms. And this is what is beginning to drive the conversation towards Web3 alternatives. If AI breaks the public web, crypto builds a Web3 of trust. So AI does a lot to disrupt the whole economy and all the tools and technologies, applications built within that ecosystem. AI is disruptive. It is breaking things. Everyone can internalize that and empathize with that statement. But Web3, remember, it's don't trust, verify. Web3 gives people a framework and the means through on-chain activities to rebuild that trust so they can interact and continue to create the economy where real value for value can be exchanged. And if you don't know Balaji, he's a real great thought leader in the space. I encourage you all to at least listen to some of his genius. He's out there thinking about things in the Web3 world in a way that really pushes the envelope for how I think about things, and it's really progressing the human race towards a better technology future. So I'm a big fan there as well. So why decentralized storage? AI becomes the reason why users and businesses need to take control over their data. It is control over your data that is the imperative statement that I focus my life's work on here at the Filecoin Foundation, and I encourage you to grapple with that concept and what it could mean for you, your business, or you as an individual. At the end of the day, with AI, data sets need to be programmable, verifiable, and immutable with no single point of failure if this data is going to succeed in an AI environment. These are the 4 pillars of data in the AI environment. And when you look at all these together, the programmability, the verifiability, the immutability with no single point of failure, there's one solution out there that does all 4 of this already and is already gaining critical adoption. And that's Filecoin. Again, Filecoin is the largest decentralized storage network on the planet. We have probably over $1 billion worth of hardware backing up our network. And these are dedicated storage experts with storage, networking, and compute expertise. This isn't, your typical L1, layer 1, crypto protocol. These are people with storage expertise providing real data storage and IT services across the globe. And that's the main reason why I joined Filecoin 2 years ago. And all I've seen is more adoption, more use cases, and more uptick in this concept of decentralized storage and why it's impactful. And the more AI comes into the narrative, the more people are finding decentralized storage options, and Filecoin in particular. So what is Filecoin? Simply put, Filecoin is just an incentive layer that matches data clients, people with data, with storage providers, people with racks and hardware to store the data. And it provides that mechanism, so even though you may not know the storage provider by name, they put up enough collateral or money in escrow that gives you, the data client, a lot of confidence that that data is going to be stored for the duration of the contract. And that's what makes, at the heart of it, that's what makes decentralized storage work. And it's put, the data is put on chain, and then you get continuous proofs every day that your data is on chain and in the state that you uploaded that data to. And that's the continuous proofs and data economy that really makes the liquidity, information liquidity, which makes it all work in a future state. So now this is an AI conference, this is a Web3 and AI conference, and you got to think about the future that is already upon us. And if you don't know Arthur Hayes is a pioneer in the Web3 space. He runs multiple funds, has multiple startups. He says, without data, an AI model can't learn. If the data is compromised due to a single point of failure or a central data storage entity changes the access rights or its prices, an AI model that is dependent on that storage entity will cease to be. It's an existential risk why I argue AIs must use a decentralized storage solution. That is why decentralized storage networks powered by Filecoin is a must-have for a burgeoning AI economy. Again, if you don't know Arthur, I encourage you to follow his work. He's a thought leader, pioneer in the space, and he had really insightful views this time last year at Token 2049 on AI and decentralized storage, which I couldn't agree more with. And when you look at some of his comments, like it's AI to AI. It's not going to be a person, like an AI doesn't call up their Google Cloud representative and say, hey, I'd like to negotiate my price here on my storage deal. No, they're going to go out there with an algorithm-based model, looking for the cheapest, best storage alternatives that meet their specific requirements. That's how an AI is going to operate. And so we already see this last week, Coinbase announced the first AI to AI transaction. So the future is here already. And when you look at who are the biggest data producers and data clients who are going to be in the future, they're going to be the AIs themselves. And when you think about that landscape and what an AI requires to do a data storage deal, it's going to need something that's programmable, immutable, verifiable, and customizable to their needs so the algorithm can execute on that storage contract. Now, if you take one thing away from me today and one thing only, it is this pyramid. I've talked with all the experts across Web3, Web2, who are building in the intelligence economy space, and this is the framework on how you make the intelligence economy work. At the base layer, the data foundation layer, you need authentication and attribution. That means how do I know if it's MIT's data and research getting loaded onto the chain, that it in fact came from MIT itself. And then with that you have the immutability and verifiability that the interplanetary file system and Filecoin can provide, giving that quality assurance layer that the data is intact and verifiable. As you go up the pyramid, you need that whole permission layer, which is the security and smart contract layer that allows access to the data without giving away the data itself. You want to have a trust layer that makes sure that I can share my data with you without you being able to copy that data, access it, run away with it, duplicate. I have controls and comfort that when I share my data, my value is being protected. As you go up there, go up the stack even more, you're going to get marketplaces for people who want to buy and sell data in the effort to support LLMs. Other people you might just share peer-to-peer, and that's great and a great use case as well. Maybe we're sitting next to each other on the plane, and we're talking about, you want to write a blog based on my expertise. I can just share some of my work data with you, and then you can have my insights via an AI agent and access to my data to help you write your blog, just because I thought you were a nice person. And at the end, at the very top, you have the data users themselves. These are the people, the AI agents and the LLMs. They're going to be leveraging the decentralized data storage to make new applications, new uses, more consumable intelligence for the rest of society. And this is the intelligence economy. This is going to be the biggest macro trend in technology over the next 20 years. Data itself is going to be one of the 3 largest digital assets on the planet, up there with Bitcoin and stablecoins. Number 3, if not greater than that, will be data itself. I'm telling you this, I implore you that the intelligence economy has already started, and if the sooner you see this and digest this, go down that rabbit hole, you could be on the precipice of one of the largest technology trends over the next generation. If you look at all the top talented teams in Web3 today, they're all focused on this problem. And this is just the beginning. If this was a baseball game, using an American analogy, we haven't even sung the anthem yet. We're so early days. But again, look around this conference, talk to people. You'll be amazed once you start listening for it, how many people are actually working on this problem. They just don't know how to describe it. So here's your insight, here's your alpha. I hope you find the intelligence economy as appealing as I do. So again, I'm with the Filecoin Foundation. There's plenty of ways to connect with us. I encourage you to start on Twitter or LinkedIn. You can find me there on both, and you can find the Filecoin Foundation on both. There's so much going on across the globe on what we're doing for the intelligence economy, the decentralized data storage, specifically with AI, that we have a wealth of resources. And with that, I thank you. I've had a wonderful time at this conference, and I hope to welcome you to the data revolution. Sooner the better. Thank you.